Saving money is amazing, but it is not the last step on your financial journey. My name is Carmen.
And I'm Darius. And in this video, we're going to discuss why saving will keep you poor. You're supposed to, that's the whole point of saving, is to make sure you have money when you need it. But the thing is, the money that we have right now isn't the same money we're going to have 10, 15 years from now. Matter of fact, the money that we had last month isn't the same money we have now. It doesn't have the same value.
With how inflation is
changing.
But I was going to say, even before we go into that, I think it's just important for people to understand, well, one, the importance of saving, right? You do have to save. And we always talk about paying yourself first, meaning you have to save money first and then spend the rest on your expenses. And when you prioritize that, it's always about making sure that as you accumulate your savings, that you have a plan to move that money. Because what we find, sometimes people just go, oh, I saved money. Great. Let's move on. That doesn't get you to the promised land of whatever financial freedom is that we think of, or maybe what you may think of. And so that's why for us, it's always important about making sure that your money is making money and not just sitting somewhere and not making any money.
And that's the whole premise of, or the whole existence of money, is for it to stay in motion. When we save money, we let that money sit, which goes against the whole purpose of money in the first place. Money is supposed to be continuously moving. We're supposed to check the box and have 6 to 12 months of expenses saved. But the reason we have 6 to 12 months of expenses saved is so that we don't go into debt when an opportunity or a situation arises. So that's the whole premise of why you should save 6 to 12 months in your bank account so you have access to it. But after that, you have to save money in order to do something. And the whole premise of how we use money is to keep that money in motion, i.e. keep money making money.
Yeah, there's different strategies in which you should be saving money. So The first strategy that you were talking about is the opportunity fund, like we like to say, or a lot of people may refer to it as your rainy day fund, whatever it is. As we saw with COVID, many people lost their jobs and had no savings and were now looking for unemployment. So for us, there's a several prong approach with your savings. Very first point is you have to make sure that you have money available for opportunities that come. You never know what those opportunities are going to be.
That's why you need 6 to 12 months of your expenses saved.
Exactly. So you need that. That's what would be stored in your warehouse, so to speak. After that, any other money that is saved is what we're using to create cash flow with, because we know that you have money for cushion. And then once that cushion is satisfied, then we have to look at, okay, what are we going to do with the rest of this money and how are we going to keep it moving?
Once we're able to do that, it starts to make more sense as to why we don't have money sitting. Because again, we can't keep up with inflation with money just sitting there. So saving alone is going to keep you poor.
I think it's important to know too, because there's a lot of programs and gurus and whatnot that are out there that tell you to save money. And again, we're telling you, yes, you need to save money.
That's the first thing you should do.
But it's then what are we doing after we save our money, and what are we doing with the funds that we have saved? So we have a few suggestions that we think you should do. If you're new to our channel, welcome. If not, you already know what we're going to say. The savings, we always say that you should put that savings and put it inside a whole life insurance policy.
Not just the whole life insurance policy. Cash value life insurance.
I was just going to say that is
Remember
designed.
what we said first? Cash value life insurance.
That is designed for high cash value, so you can have cash available in the very first year. Because for us, it's not about waiting 2, 3, 4, 5 years to access any cash. Like we said, we got to keep it moving and we can't wait. So the type of policies that we design and our team designs are high cash value policies that accumulate cash in the very first year.
Now, why is that the case? Why don't we just have a life insurance policy and we put it on the shelf right next to our savings?
Because we're in the same boat as far as just putting our savings up. We're not doing anything. We don't have any money to access to do anything with.
Exactly.
And for us, we strategically design these policies in such a way so that you can start moving money immediately and not just keep it stored.
How many of us buy a car and put it in the garage and never drive it? Or how many of us buy a house and never rent it out and just have it just to look at?
Or don't live in it.
Or don't live in it.
Yeah.
All that stuff is supposed to be used. The same thing with our money. Our money is supposed to be used. We don't put it in the shelf and wait to use it or never use it and just look at it for just because we like seeing money in the bank. That's not a good idea. That's not the whole purpose of it, because if that's the purpose of it, then that $2 that you have saved is not going to be the same $2 later. We have to put that money to work in order for us to earn interest to not only beat inflation, but we have to worry about interest rates going up and down. We have to worry about a variety of different things, because not only 30 years from now will the value of our cash be less that we have saving, but the cost of everything else is going to be more. So the $1 million today is not going to be the same $1 million tomorrow.
And the other thing too, I think it's you had mentioned something, looking at your money. A lot of times people like to log into their bank accounts and look at the money they have in the account, and it makes them feel some kind of way because they can see the money. We need to get out of that mindset.
Right.
ASAP. We need to start looking at our bank accounts as going, if I have all of this money in this bank account,
that's a lot of money not making any money.
That's a problem. That's a big problem. Like Houston, all the alarms should be going off. I should not have more than what my opportunity fund has. And if any dollar that I have over my opportunity fund should be moved somewhere else. That's just another way of you looking in the mirror of recognizing that you're not being proactive with your funds. That's a good way to have checks and balances to go, okay, if I need to have $10,000 in my bank account. If I have 11, we're $1,000 over. If I have 12, we're $2,000 over. And you need to figure out a way to start making money with that $2,000 that is over your opportunity fund, if that makes sense.
All right. Now, one thing I do want to acknowledge is that it's really hard to even save money for a lot of us. Just think about it. 60% of us have debt. The 60% of people not saving any money. Remember when we looked at statistics from 2021, that 60% of people have saved less than $300. Even getting to that point of savings, now we're telling you that that's not enough. So what about the people who can't even get to the point of saving?
That's a good point.
So what we have to do is we have to understand where we're trying to go. And the thing that helped us a lot, because we've been in six figures worth of debt, $120,000 worth of debt. And the way we got out of that is because we started reprioritizing the things that we need versus the things that we want. And that still wasn't enough, because not only did we have to get out of debt, we had to reverse it and start saving money to get to the point where we can start investing money.
That's a really good point. And the majority of America is in debt. Right. So it is important that we talk about those things, because a lot of times people come to us and say, Darius and Carmen, you say I need to pay myself first, but I can't even pay myself first because I have just enough money to make all my bills. Another thing that we just talk about is the reprioritization of what you're doing with your funds, but also recognizing that maybe you're overextending yourself in several different categories, which is why you don't have any money to pay yourself first. We talk about it all the time as far as the 50-30-20 rule. I've mentioned that on many different videos. You can go ahead and check that out here or even in the description, where we talk about how you should allocate your funds appropriately to make sure that you are utilizing your income responsibly. And I think to your point, we got in debt and stayed in debt for several years because we weren't prioritizing our funds and we weren't allocating them accordingly. Like, just because we had the income doesn't mean that we need to spend all of it. And we didn't understand that concept. We were just like, we have income, we should spend it all down to zero every single month.
I don't even think that it was something that we said we should do. I think that's just something that naturally happened because we had the funds. And when we took a snapshot and looked at our income and our expenses, we looked at it like, where in the world is this additional funds are going to come? But the thing is, we decided that we were going to take huge action in order to make the adjustments necessary for our future selves. We're going to sacrifice now for in the future. So what we ended up doing is the highest expense on our debt sheet was our mortgage. So we moved to a smaller place. We got to a point to where we were living in a studio apartment. On the outside, oh man, Darius and Carmen, they shooting bad. They live in a studio apartment. But we had money in our pocket. We had money that we were able to save to get ourselves out of the debt that we had. One thing that I always thought about that we discussed is, would you rather look like $1 million or would you rather have $1 million?
Can you ask that question again?
Would you rather look like $1 million or would you rather have $1 million? How you answered that question will help you decide on maybe what you should do next or what you can expect your future to be. If you would rather look like $1 million, you'll never have money. You'll always look like money instead of having it. But if you rather have it, you may not necessarily look like you want to look, but you'll have it. And having it internally gives you the confidence that you need to where you don't necessarily have to look the part.
And I think the other thing too that we're talking about indirectly is ego. Our ego gets in the way.
Ego is expensive.
The ego will keep you in the poorhouse and keep you from saving money.
Exactly.
So exactly to your point, Darius and I had to check our ego at the door. We're working our way through corporate America. We're in our 20s making bucks. Darius is flaunting, I'm an engineer, blah, 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 and we're feeling ourselves. And now we we have this big fancy house and we're house broke. Not necessarily house broke, but it's just we have enough to cover everything. And then if any emergency comes up, now we have to go into debt for it. And we recognize very quickly, like, that's killing us. What do we have this house for anyway? We had to reprioritize what are the things that are important to us. Do we want to spend our days inside of a house all day, every day? Or do we want to go experience the world and travel and do stuff? And if we want to get out of this house, we don't need to be paying all this money for this type of house and the upkeep for it, because when we think about what brings joy and happiness and excitement to us is getting out and seeing things.
Right. And getting out and seeing things allows us to have experiences that helps us make better decisions, financial decisions in the future. That's why being outside of our house was so important, because that really helped us be able to conversate, network, and branch out with other people with other ideas and opinions about finances. And we're able to remember, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang around the most. Because we're able to expand our network, we're able to start making different financial decisions that eventually helped us get out of the situation that we were in.
Yeah. The things that we were starting to do after people realized that we weren't losing our minds was they started realizing, wow, this is powerful and you guys aren't attached to things anymore. And maybe I should not be as attached to things or need to have to look like $1 million because who is that serving at the end of the day? That's why I go back to this thing about ego, is if there's a reason why you are struggling with saving money, you may need to look in the mirror and figure out why that reason is, because there's no, absolutely zero reason why you should not have a plan for savings. And if you don't, it's because you need to check yourself.
And the reason why we're harping on this is because just saving alone is going to keep you poor. So if you're not even at that point to even save money,
be able to save money,
I don't necessarily have words for the risk or the situation that you could potentially be putting yourself in or your future self in. So let's work on our ego, because our ego is what other people see when they see us. They might see us looking good, but they don't know that internally we feel some type of way because we're up to our eyeballs in debt, or we're not where we want to be financially. It's a facade, but when we go home, we have to face the fact of where we are and who we are as individuals. So for our mental sanity, let's put all that aside. Let's put all that aside and do what we need to do to make sure that we have the funds necessary just to save money, to have 6 to 12 months of savings in the bank. We're not like majority of America out there, 60% of Americans that only have $300 in savings. And then I think a lot of times what we do is we get upset with people that have money saying that they need to help others, but
when you can't even help yourself.
When you can't even help yourselves, it's really hard to help somebody that can't help themselves.
That just struck me like a ton of bricks. It is true.
You have all the intention in the world, but money can't solve the problem for them.
But then that's also victim. You're blaming someone else for not helping you when you should be helping yourself.
I think about people that we do lend money to, that actually they say they need it. Thing is, they spend their money and they're going to spend some of ours too. But giving them money doesn't help the root cause. The problem is they haven't been able to manage the funds that they do have appropriately. Because when you think about it, there's people that live in San Francisco that make $50,000 and they're doing fine. But there's also people that live in
San Francisco making $1 million
and struggling, living paycheck to paycheck. And the problem is the ego. You don't necessarily need a Ferrari if you make $1 million. I take that back. A lot of people that have those Ferraris use it as a tax write-off. So I take that back.
There's a strategy.
There's a strategy there.
Yeah.
You
that
have
might be marketing.
Yeah, that might be marketing. But for all the Escalades and a Kia gets you to the same place in the same amount of time without the overhead.
And I think going back to the point you were talking about, where if you're already behind the fact that you're not savings, that's a big problem. Right now, today, it's all about checking yourself, checking your ego, and trying to figure out why aren't you doing this in the first place? Because the only reason why it's happening is because of you. So you need to make something happen and get out of victim mode or whatever it is and start taking action. So the next thing is start saving money, create a certain percentage. Hopefully you start at 10, start at 5 if you have to, then move to 10, then move to 20, move it up as far as how much money you are taking from your income to pay yourself first. And then once you pay yourself first, for us, we recommend that you put your money inside a whole life insurance policy that's designed for a high cash value, and then move to the point where you decide, okay, what am I going to do with these funds to start creating returns for me so that my money can start making money? That's like the path that we always recommend people take way, and you can't skip steps because otherwise you get into trouble. When we talk about storage facilities, it's about you utilizing your cash value whole life insurance policy just for storage, and then doing your research and trying to figure out what it is that's going to bring you maximum return so that you can earn interest in two places at once.
Right. Like when you said you get into trouble, first thing that came to my mind is borrowing money to invest. Not all investments are created equal. And let's say you don't have the investment doesn't go the way you wanted it to. Now you can't pay the money back that you borrowed. So that's how you get in trouble. I think.
But to preface that, because all the investors and we borrow money to invest.
But it's not our first rodeo.
But the difference is we have the funds to pay back the borrowed money, if that makes sense. So what Darius is referring to is people who get into trouble because they borrow money and have no business borrowing money in the first place to then invest, which is different.
It's because I think a lot of people don't tell a full story. In order to borrow money to invest, you have to use the cash that you do have as leverage to borrow money. So you can't borrow money to invest without being able to show that you have the money available in the first place.
Yeah, so that there's levels to everything that you do, and the main thing is we gotta free up any cash that you do have so that we can start making a plan for it.
Prioritizing it for money to make money instead of using your money to look like you have money. And going back to the root of the video, which is just saving money will make you poor, is we can't just sit on our funds. Like we can't just sit on our hands. Everybody talks about sit on your hands and do nothing. That's exactly what you're doing when you just look at your money in a savings account, or you just look at your money in maybe an asset that isn't generating enough income for you. Your money has to keeping up with inflation.
Yeah, your money has to constantly be in motion. And so if you aren't looking at investments, if you aren't studying ways to flip money, you're losing money. It's literally falling through your fingertips because you're not keeping up with taxes, you're not keeping up with inflation, you're not keeping up with making your money make money. And so that's why for us, it's never about just savings and sitting. It's about strategy. And you have to always be engaged. That's the other thing too, is you can't just put something on autopilot and then never look at it again. You have to constantly be engaged, which is why we're always saying you need to be in the money business and your income business, whatever it is, because you have to have the same level of passion and effort and desire and drive to make both of these vehicles move forward if financial freedom is something that's serious for you.
And you don't have to wait till you make money in order to start doing your research. Research is free. Research is absolutely free. You have the power of the internet right on your cell phone. You have a supercomputer in your pocket. Use that bad boy to start researching things that call to you, things that you always wanted to do, things that you think will be a good idea to make money, because there's no one way of making money. There's thousands of different ways to make money. Actually, I feel like there's more ways to make money than there is to lose money.
That's a interesting perspective.
There's more ways to make money than there are ways to lose money. And I think one thing that was always told to me that resonated with me is that there's more people that have money than there are people that know how to ask for it. In our research, how can we use a product or service that we create in order to make our money make money?
I think we can end there, Darius. So if you want to start learning how to make passive income with the money that you have saved, check out our next video where you can learn some strategies from us. And don't forget to own your own lifestyle.
Or someone else will.